Jack Straw, who we saw in Question Time last week, making a fantastic performance, says that the creation of the Supreme Court provides greater clarity by further separating the judiciary from the legislature, underlining the independence of our judicial system. But the Master of the Rolls, Lord Neuberger, has said that he believes the law of unintended consequences could result in the new Supreme Court asserting itself in a way which is foreign to our Constitution, which could lead to conflicts between Parliament and the Court. In other words, the new court could over time and perhaps unintentionally threaten parliamentary sovereignty. What's your view?
I'd like to start by saying how much I welcome and wish well the new endeavour at Greenwich to expand on the availability of legal courses, and I hope it is most successful. These days we have a greater need for students of quality in the law. Coming to the question, I think that to some extent both of those statements can be reconciled. I think that it is undoubtedly true that the move from the House of Lords, indeed from the place where we are sitting at this very moment, to a separate Supreme Court is in keeping with the times. I think the stage had been reached when it was no longer satisfactory to have the final Court of Appeal of the United Kingdom sitting as a committee of the House of Lords, although it had worked extremely well in the past and probably could have gone on working extremely well. The big advantage, as I see it, of the change is not in practice the separation. It is the fact that the role of the new Supreme Court will be better understood than the role of the previous House of Lords by people who are not experts in the matter. Furthermore, they'll be much more accessible. Coming up to where we are sitting at the moment, we had to go along corridors, up in a lift, along another corridor, back down the corridor, and it is very confusing. And members of the public who are entitled to see and watch the final court of appeal in operation just did not usually come to hear appeals. I think that's a bad thing, having regard to the changes in the role of our final Court of Appeal in relation to the type of cases they hear. Nowadays, cases of great importance to the ordinary citizen regularly come before the final Court of Appeal. And these are cases which can have serious immediate consequences on the safety of the public in some cases, because they're dealing with terrorism issues. They can involve issues of human rights, which all citizens are entitled to. And I think it is much better that the court which now exists on the other side of Parliament Square, easily accessible, excellent communication facilities, should now be open. What Lord Neuberger said was a fear that I had to some extent in my mind.
Initially,
Yes, I did make similar remarks when it was first announced. I had two concerns. One was the cost, because one advantage of being in the House of Lords was that it was a very economical way of running the final court. And we've had to spend a lot of money creating a Supreme Court building, and we are now going to spend a lot of money running it. But the powers of the new Supreme Court are in law exactly the same as the House of Lords powers. What I thought might happen, and I emphasise only might happen, is because of the very chemistry of sitting as a Supreme Court, there could be a tendency for the House of Lords to be forgotten and the new court seen as an opportunity to act in a different way. Now, remarks such as that quoted by Lord Neuberger have been made by a number of people of high authority, and I am confident that to begin with, at any rate, we won't see much difference in the way the court works and the powers it seeks to itself. But over time, I think that there may be a difference, because I can see the court developing like other Supreme Courts in other parts of the world, and I can see that there may just be a slight difference in emphasis. And as the court gains in confidence, it will look across the seas and see how other Supreme Courts work. And I think the greater powers that they have may tempt the Supreme Court to be more assertive.
Increasingly, we see judges chairing public inquiries or other public bodies. Do you think there is a conflict between performing roles such as these and their roles as judges?
When the 2005 Act was being introduced, there were certain issues that caused me concern, and one of them was the one you've just touched upon. But it's a well-established role for judges to chair inquiries, and I've chaired a few myself. And I think you can make a special contribution as the judge conducting the inquiry because of the status you have as a senior judge. And I think there are issues which have to be inquired into in a way which is seen not to be influenced by politics. And so it is understandable that the judges are invited to do this. But judges need to remember that they have the right to decline. And if they are not satisfied with the arrangements that have been made, then they can and should, in my view, chair an inquiry.
Historically, the role of the judges has been to interpret the law, not make it. Do you think this has changed over the years, and if so, why?
Well, I don't think in modern memories it was ever not the role of the judges to make law. In a common law system,
in common law, yeah, sorry.
In a common law system, they had to make law.
Yeah.
And Lord Reid put it very well. He said the idea that a judge goes into some cave and says, "Eureka! I've discovered what the law is," and which was not known before, is really a fairy tale.
Yeah.
And really, the reality is that the law develops and evolves as a result of decisions of the court. Mm. And so all of us are engaged to different degrees in making the common law.
What do you consider the role of the judiciary is in terms of the British Constitution?
Well, I think we're guardians of the rule of law, and I think the rule of law is a critical part of our democracy, and our democracy would not work if it wasn't for the fact that the judges have the responsibility of upholding the rule of law.
The number of cases of judicial review has grown over the years. Do you think that judges have become more political in their outlook and therefore more willing to challenge or question government policy?
I think that the position is that the development of judicial review has been most remarkable, and the skills which the judges have now acquired enables them to apply the process of judicial review much more effectively than in the past. But their role hasn't changed. It remains the role to ensure that the executive keeps within their powers. In other words, acts lawfully.